For the longest time, we've all pictured data in these neat little rows and columns, like a spreadsheet. But what if I told you the most valuable insights aren't in the cells themselves, but in the invisible lines connecting them? That's the hidden web inside our data. And today, we're going to talk about the tool AWS built to finally map it out, Amazon Neptune. So let's dive right into this idea of a hidden web. It's really at the heart of so many of today's biggest challenges. For decades, our databases have been fantastic at one thing, storing individual pieces of information. But the moment you ask them how all those pieces connect, well, that's when they start to slow down and really struggle. Okay, think about it like this. Imagine a fraudster. They use the same credit card on one account, a shared phone number on another, and a similar address on a third. To a traditional database, those look like three completely separate, unrelated events. No red flags. But a graph database, it sees the pattern instantly. Bam! It connects the dots and can flag the entire fraud ring in real time.
Or how about this one, a classic IT nightmare that keeps people up at night? A single service goes down. What else is about to break? With the old tools, you're looking at hours of frantic searching to trace that chain reaction. But by seeing your network as a graph, you get the answer in seconds. It becomes so clear that for these kinds of problems, you have to see the web, not just the individual points.
Here's probably the best way to wrap your head around the difference. A relational database is like a phone book. It's awesome if you need to look up one person's number. But what if you wanted to find out how every single person in that phone book is connected to each other through their friends? It would be incredibly slow and painful. A graph database, on the other hand, is like a social network map. It was literally built from the ground up to explore those connections, which makes it lightning fast and super intuitive. And that brings us to Amazon's answer to all these complex relationship-driven problems. So let's formally meet the tool for the job, Amazon Neptune. In plain English, Neptune is a specialized database from AWS that just lives and breathes connections. Now, the two key phrases you need to hear are fully managed and high performance. This means you get all the incredible power of graph analytics without the massive headache of setting up, patching, and maintaining all that complex infrastructure yourself. AWS handles it for you. Now, one of Neptune's most powerful features, and this is a big deal, is its versatility. It's not locked into just one way of thinking about graphs. It actually supports two of the most popular graph models out there. You've got the property graph model, which is perfect for things like social networks and that fraud detection stuff we talked about. And then you have RDF, which is amazing for building these giant, complex knowledge graphs, like mapping out scientific data. Having both in one service is rare, and it makes Neptune incredibly flexible. So what gives Neptune its edge? What makes it tick? Let's break down its key features, which, honestly, I like to think of as its core superpowers. This first superpower, being fully managed, is a total game changer for developers. It means AWS is taking care of all the tedious, time-consuming busy work, the patching, the backups, the monitoring, all of it. This frees up your teams to focus on what actually moves the needle, building amazing applications and pulling real value out of their data.
Okay, this number, 15, might seem random, but it's all about performance. This means you can create up to 15 copies of your database that people can all hit with questions at the same exact time. Think of it like a grocery store, suddenly opening 15 checkout lanes instead of just one. It lets a massive number of users get answers from your data instantly with no waiting in line.
Durability is another huge deal. Your data isn't just sitting in one building. Neptune automatically makes 6 copies of it and spreads them across 3 completely separate physical locations called availability zones. What that means is, even if an entire data center has a problem, your data is still safe and your database stays up and running. And finally, for anyone who works with data that absolutely positively cannot be wrong, this is a non-negotiable. Neptune is fully ACID compliant. It's a technical term, but it basically guarantees that any change to your data, a transaction, is processed reliably. It's all or nothing. For apps in finance, healthcare, or logistics, this is the gold standard for making sure your data is always consistent and correct. Okay, so that's the tech, but let's see how these superpowers are actually put to work to solve really complex, real-world problems. This is where the theory gets real. In the world of fraud detection, Neptune acts like a super detective. It can instantly trace those faint connections between accounts that might share a device, an address, or a credit card. And it's especially good at spotting tricky things like circular money flows, where money is laundered through a long, complex chain of accounts. That's a pattern that's almost impossible for traditional systems to see. Have you ever wondered how your social network just knows who you might know, or how a streaming service picks the perfect movie for you? Yep, that's a graph problem. Neptune is the engine behind this stuff. It analyzes this huge web of interactions, who's friends with whom, who liked what, to deliver those hyper-personalized and spookily relevant suggestions we all get. But the impact gets even more profound in the life sciences. Here, researchers are using Neptune to map out the incredibly complex interactions between genes, proteins, and chemical compounds. By modeling these biological networks as a graph, they can actually accelerate the process of drug discovery and get a much deeper understanding of diseases. It's truly graph technology being used to help humanity. So, we've seen what it is and what it does. Now let's just pull it all together and really summarize why a tool like Neptune is so important right now. This comparison table really just cuts right to the chase. Look, there are other powerful graph databases out there, for sure. But Neptune's biggest advantage is that it's a cloud-native, fully managed service. That, plus its multi-model support and how it just clicks perfectly into the rest of the AWS ecosystem, makes it an incredibly compelling choice for anyone already building on AWS. At the end of the day, Neptune isn't just another database. It really represents a fundamental shift in how we think, from focusing on individual records to focusing on the relationships between them. It makes this powerful tech accessible by taking away the operational pain. It plugs it into the wider cloud world, and it even layers on machine learning to help you make predictions. As one source puts it so well, this whole approach makes Neptune the simplest, most reliable path to enterprise-grade graph processing for any company that's serious about operating in the cloud. And that really just leaves us with one final powerful question to think about. In your own business, in your own research, in your own projects, what amazing insights, what hidden connections are just lying there dormant, waiting for the right tool to connect the dots? Thanks for joining me.